Okay, and we are rolling with my wonderful friend Natalie, my only friend that is willing to get on camera. I was telling her I have all these friends that would love to do my book club, but they won't come on camera.
That's
It's like,
funny.
well, I need you on the camera. But anyway, I'm excited about this because I freaking loved this book.
Whoa, it's good.
And I was so excited that you would read it. I actually had a couple other friends read it too. And so I would love to hear just your initial thoughts about like when I was asking you to, if you wanted to do this book club with me
Yep.
and do this, because this was the first book that we were talking about doing, really.
Yep. And okay, so I watched your show first when you had him on.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me. The book is
Yes.
Blueprints of Mind Control by James True, who is alive and well and has an incredible YouTube channel. I'll put that in the description box too, so
Those are
people
very
can go in and learn from this man of great, as you would say, common sense.
great common sense and the ability to connect dots, probably better than anyone I've listened to so far. And
Yeah.
that's saying something. But
Yeah.
my initial impression wasn't love. I was a little like, I didn't dislike him. I don't do that. I don't like judge a person for who the person is, because it's always different on camera. Anyway, I mean, we all, have a different face we put on for things, but I did not like some of the stuff he said. At first, I was like a little like put off by, the dojo, if anyone else watched that show, and God, and leaving his kids with Saint. It just was like, wait a second, what? And so when I feel like that, I have to take a little time to
Right.
absorb and process and rewatch, is what I try to do, especially with your show, because you have a talent. You're so good at finding really, really smart and interesting people.
You're so
And
sweet.
so I
Thank
was
you.
like, well, it's so true. I watch all your shows very faithfully. But so I watched it again, and I got something different out of it the second time. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna give this book a chance.
Yeah.
So I am so happy I did. And it's such a lesson for all of us.
Yes.
That, I usually trust my first instinct on someone if like I'm getting a really bad vibe.
Yeah.
But that wasn't it. So it's a great lesson to all of us to if something rubs us wrong, maybe we need to look at like our perception of things and why. And for me, I'm locked into, a very faith-filled, devout way of speaking about God. And so it's not blasphemy what he said whatsoever. It was just he was putting it in terms, I think, that a lot of people could understand.
Right.
But the book is phenomenal. It what I love the most is, what are there, 50 some chapters, and they're
I think
quick.
there's 47.
47. Okay. 47 chapters, and it goes so quick because each chapter is short and different, but profound. Yeah. I've never met, and I don't know him, like obviously I didn't mean it, but I've never
encountered an author
that, or even a person really, that could be so pithy yet so brilliant. Like to make his chapters short and make them make the kind of sense and make the connections I ramble. So and a lot of authors, they take a long time to get to the gist, to get to the point. This book is for everyone. I mean,
it really is. And there are literally, you could do an entire show on paragraphs in there, because there's so many profound things that come up over and over and over again. And I was on my third time listening to it on audiobook, because I'm horrible about reading. I like to listen and get something done at the same time. And so third time through it, got to, I think, 44. So I'm like 3 short, but just so. And tell them what you said to me about reading it the second time. Yeah, before we
have to. You almost have to read it another time, because you're so wowed by some of the information that you're still processing, what he said here that you miss some of what he says next.
Exactly.
And I'm going to listen to it again. I'm going to have to probably listen to it several more times. I want everyone I know to listen to it or read it, because the connections, the common sense, the guy is off the charts. And sometimes he says things that I have to go back and re-listen, because the way he talks about people, and even who was the little, I'm gonna screw up names because I always do.
Yoki?
Yes, Yoki. Oh my gosh, that story was like, wow.
Yeah.
I listened to that one several times, and this about Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's one of those books too that it would do it a disservice to go through it in chronological order, but then there's no way you could disseminate it and actually give it any kind of kudos to the level that it deserves, in my opinion. And I think it's that powerful of a book. And I actually believe that it would be healing to the world, especially the national front, in the US, because a lot of it is based on, the mind control. And we're kind of like the epicenter of all of that insanity. But gosh, he just does the best job of explaining mind control in so many different levels, as educationally, like when he says he found out he was racist in college, or through doctors, or through politics. And so it was just wonderful. Even the Lady Gaga scene blew my mind.
That one, and the one with Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
I mean, to hear, we've all heard the Clinton body count. I don't think that's new to anyone. And I've long known she was into witchcraft. I mean, if you do any research on her, she's pretty heinous. But to listen to how she became her, and I mean, the level of research he had to have done to do this book.
That's the part that blew my mind, because I think
over the place.
When I was listening to the Lady Gaga story, and he even used the word, the dark mothers, there's 40 dark mothers. And I was like, that is such a rare thing to know, unless you really dig in deep into the occult. It's crazy.
And the stuff with Gloria Vanderbilt. And it all, I mean, you can tie it together, because she was one of the dark mothers, but she didn't know the other dark. I mean, because I've learned a lot from your show, from your guests. And even though, things happened along the way, there was information that we were given that was spot on. Spot on with the occult. So it's fun to connect those dots and to listen to someone who's done so much research, who's not in the occult, who's not been trafficked, who's an outsider, just talking about the mind control aspect of the occult. Fascinating.
Absolutely.
I mean, literally, we're just going to sit here and sing his praises.
I know, and glow over it. And what makes me so happy is that you really were not wanting to read it at first. But this is what I will say to you. I absolutely love that you are, I had an argument with a woman about being open-minded, and I really felt like in the end she was right, because she was saying we have to be single-focused on Christ. But I do believe you can be both. And I think that's what you do. And I think that you run it through your filter, but to your credit, you were willing to look at it. And I think if more of us did that as Christians, even if we ultimately ended up disagreeing, we can always tell the person why we disagree with a certain thing.
Absolutely.
It's not that hard.
Well, and especially when you think about that, it's a book on mind control. So whether we like it or not, we're all victims of mind control to some extent or another. And so just because I have preconceived notions of how you should speak about God, that doesn't make me right. That's just my experience.
Yeah.
And so listen, when COVID hit and everything happened, and I started understanding the extent to which we all been mind controlled. And I was really waking up to that. That's the first thing I learned is question everything. And
Right.
and question yourself more than anything. At the end of the day, if I can question everyone, but if I'm
Right.
not questioning myself, then it's probably worth nothing.
Yeah.
Because
And,
we're
and
all
so what do
victims.
you think as far as like, if you were trying to describe this book to someone who you really wanted them to read it because they don't understand all the agendas that had happened and all the propaganda that we live under, and they're still the kind of person that, you know, sees their credentials and they kind of bow to it, what would you say to them?
In order to get them to read it,
Yeah, just to kind of sell them on it.
I think I'd probably say just that. I think I would say, I think you're doing a disservice to yourself to not listen to this and formulate your own opinion. You can't really understand the level of mind control that's happening in society if you don't start doing some research of your own. And you
And
can
he does it all for you brilliantly.
exactly. And like, I don't think anyone I know would be bored with this book. I don't think
No,
the stuff
no.
with 9/11, I think the Clinton stuff is going to come off pretty well for most people. I don't think anyone really likes her. And so I think most people think she's evil. I mean,
Right,
that's even with liberal friends, they don't like
right,
her.
right,
I think if he had gone into Obama, that might be a little harder.
right.
People still love Barack Obama, um, at least my liberal friends. I think that the 9/11 stuff is going to be a hard pill for people to swallow, and like the NASA stuff. If you're really still locked into mainstream media and the world is the way that we see it, I think I'd probably warn them. You're not going to love
Right.
everything. You're not going to agree with everything, but a lot of it's going to make sense to you. And I think I would give it a shot before ever shooting it down, because it makes so much sense to such an extent that I think most of the people out there would want to listen to it at least a couple times.
Yeah. No,
I really
it,
do.
and it's fun. It was so fun for me because the first time through, I'm garbling up like anything that I
Right.
didn't know. But the second time through, I'm like, how much of this mind control is still in me? You know, because you think about
Exactly.
like you've gotten really good at kind of blocking, you know, especially us. We've already kind of gone through the medical thing, we've already gone through the school thing. But
Yep.
for me, it was more like internal like reins that are on our like mouths to, you know, not say certain things or not do certain things, even not even exploring within yourself. And so it made me think so much about just my own ability to continue to filter out and clean and clarify my body of all of this insanity.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, I've I've been on your show before talking about politics. I've been involved in politics, especially locally. Um, and so for me, I have to keep peeling away the layers. Like, I understand the Republican Party is as corrupt as the Democrat Party. I
Right.
get it. I
Right.
see it firsthand. The stuff that I've witnessed is disgusting. Um, and then, you know, to be from Florida, to understand who our chief of staff currently is, Susan Wiles. And I would say most of the people I work around here in St. Johns County, she's from here. Um, she's either Duval or St. Johns County, but we're like right next to each other.
Right.
People can't stand her, and they think that she's controlling Trump, and so I have to like, I step away from everything, and that's how I've learned. It's and I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happening, and all the people that are black pilled now. There are so many people, just Epstein list never came out. We're done.
Right.
And so it's a good healthy check for me to go like, it's so complicated. The politics are so complicated, and there's so much mind control, no matter who's in charge. Um, to some extent, we're all being played. I mean,
Oh gosh, yes.
just the nature of
And
politics.
it's kind of like, I hear James say it all the time, like, what, you know, I want to say something, but I don't want to ruin it for them. Like, it's kind of like he wants us all to get there on our own in a way,
We
because
need
like
to.
when you finally get there, it kind of is like, okay, like, is the game over?
Right.
But it fascinated me. I was blown away. The number one thing I think I would have to say is that, like, it really boils down to, because I love to like oversimplify things. And, he asked the question in the very beginning, is it true? Like, that one question, like, really, really comes home. But for me, it was like he's trying to serve up to people on a platter. Do you want to trust your consciousness or your intuition, or
Mhm.
do you want to trust what you've been told to trust, and what's outside of you, and or your subconscious, I guess, in a way, because we are so run by our reptilian brain. Like, it's an inner and an outer thing. But for me, and it made me think of my daughter too, because she's all about girl science, and that's, you're using your intuition, and
Right.
she's saying it works with your body, it works with your medical decisions,
Yeah.
it works with everything. And so I think that he brings home, better than I've ever seen, the desire to really tap into who you are, and to not be a part of the blueprint anymore.
Right. And it's tough because, I mean, people are so locked into what they're locked into. And I work, like I said, work in politics. So everybody that I work around, they think they're fully disengaged, except for
Right.
they're not.
Right. They
Except for
don't think
they're
they
not.
have any blueprint,
Right.
or they don't have any mind control on them at all. I'm
We,
clear.
right. We all do. And that's the thing, is like, if you think you don't, you're probably way further behind than you think you are. It's when you're starting to be honest about, yeah, I'm sure I have levels upon levels upon levels. And that's why, is it true? I would say that once COVID happened, that's all I cared about, is finding the truth. And
Same.
it's a mind, you know what, to try and
Yes.
find it in this day and age.
Yeah.
And you're going to be wrong a lot, and you need to be okay with being wrong. And you're going to be disappointed a lot. And I mean, just like the faith thing, I thought about the Catholic faith and the conclave a lot as I was listening to him, because it's,
Interesting.
well, yeah, it's, this Pope is holy. This man isn't holy. He's a, and Catholics, you're not go I read the comments. Like, I was fascinated to see, because I've been away from the church for quite a while. And
Right.
I was catechetically trained. I mean, I went to training every single year for days. And so you go and you spend 3 days, and you sign up for these classes, and you can't take certain classes until you've had your basic classes. And it is such mind control, because you complete your classes because next year you're so excited that you'll get to do angels and demons. I
Right.
mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's it's a crazy religion. And just the fact that they have a catechism, that many people, if you're not Catholic, you don't really know about the catechism, and their own Bible. And there's extra things, and it all just reeks of mind control. But you read through the comments, as a lot of people were talking about how they didn't like Pope Francis, that they felt he was evil. Oh my gosh. You've got your locked in people that are like, oh, he was wonderful, and they're the liberals and the progressives, and then you've got the people that are just like, it is a sin to say something against the Holy Father. And I was like, Holy Father, my butt. Like, come on. And then with Pope Leo, he's holy, and it's like, the guy's a man. And I ever since I woke up, I thought it's blasphemy almost to go to confession. It's blasphemy to, like, how they run things, because they're still asserting that you need a mediator to get to the Father. When Jesus came and died to be our mediation, to be our advocate. So it's so crazy. And I think sadly enough, we're pretty far away in terms of many things of people being awake.
Oh my gosh, that was the other thing that I was like, oh man, this is going to take longer than I thought. And one of the most brilliant things that he said also to me, of course, like everyone's going to have their own things, but when he was saying that we all perform black magic, because black magic is when you remove the heart from the decision. You've got the head, the heart, and the gut. And that when you remove the heart, how often do we see people doing things that they have absolutely removed the heart? That's black magic.
Yep.
And then he said, people don't like light magic because it's uncomfortable and you have to face some realities and like it, you know, of course he says it way better than I am right now, but that was seriously brilliant because it is absolutely true. And there's all these people out there that are performing black magic, being cruel in the name of the church. Yep. You know, like you just gave the Catholic example, but I'll give the charismatic example. Like all of these pastors are getting in trouble for stupid stuff. Right. And some of it is so ridiculous. And the fact that they're defending it, and that is the black magic. They've taken their heart out. Yep. And they have what they want, and that's all that matters. And they're going after it in this like very like dinosaur kind of attitude that I'm going to speak these words and then I can keep doing what I'm doing. So leave me alone in my black magic.
Again, common sense. Like if he just said everyone engages in black magic, we'd be like, what?
Right. And that's why I think so many people get like offended by him.
Exactly.
But what he's saying is true. You just haven't heard all of the supporting details yet.
Well, exactly.
And listen.
And how many of us operate in the shadows in some form of even dark magic? Manipulation is witchcraft.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I would say I spent the majority of my life manipulating people.
But see, that's part about his book that is so good because it does make you look in after you're done, you know, gobbling up all of the salacious stories that he brings in, and just absolutely stunning job. And we haven't even touched on how brilliant of a wordsmith he is.
Oh, I mean,
I actually had written down a couple of quotes, and I had already told everybody like that when he was on, my favorite thing that he said is it true? Because it breaks it down to like, okay, if you read this book and you start asking this question, is it true? Then you will begin to open those doors. And I do believe that truth is like a best friend. And if you don't pay attention to truth kind of disappears out of your life. But as you seek it, it comes and it will start bringing you things without you even asking for it.
It's so true.
Did you have any quotes that you really liked?
Oh my gosh. Racism basically is a victim on a pedestal.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my gosh,
that's the
trans movement to a T. I mean, and we can look back and go over all the victims that, you know, they create for us. But this trans movement, it's all about the victim. So that's why now the Black people are out. They're done. They're gone. They're no longer fascinated with that division because now they've got the trans movement and they're the new victim. They're the new for you. And so everyone's virtues. I mean, do you know how many friends I have that don't agree with this trans movement? Okay, so here's a great example. UNC just won today, the girls, NCAA Division I national championship. Okay, Betty is their goalie, and Betty is a biological male.
Right. So, and just for YouTube's, you know, if you're listening, YouTube, this is about a fiction book. And if you don't believe me, you can look it up.
Yes.
We are just talking about a fiction book here. All right, keep going.
But so I was I was sad that I love UNC and they're talented. I am not taking anything away from those girls, but do you really feel like it's 100% win when there's like I can't remember the final score, but it was probably like a 6-goal deficit for the other team? And really, I'm sorry, if you're competitive at all, deep in your heart, there's got to be a tiny bit of you that says, did we win because we have a male in
We
goal?
put something fake on a pedestal.
Right. But here's the crazy thing is that I have so many friends. This goalie is from Colorado. So this goalie actually played on teams against girls that I know in Colorado.
Wow. Yeah.
And I, as a parent, would have pulled my daughter off the team. And I would have been like, I'm sorry, but on principle, we have to fight this. You will like yourself better at the end of this for standing up. But do you know, none of my friends did. None of them said a peep.
But see, that's part of what he talks about also.
Exactly. That's exactly. Because they know this.
Light magic is uncomfortable.
Exactly. They know it's wrong, but they're not going to say anything because they don't want to be those people.
Exactly.
And you're victimizing the victim. You know?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. This was one of my favorites too. He was talking about that moment when you realize something has, when you it hits and it hits right and it strikes that chord and you know that everything's going to fall apart. When he was talking about the 2 altars and the person he married rather than the one. And he said, there's no pretending you sit behind the wheel once it starts. Once you realize it, you are strapped to the front of the hood like an ornament. And then it says, I felt my body dissolving itself like a cocoon caterpillar. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I have been there. And when you've walked across that territory in that part of the map of who you are, that is exactly what happens. You begin to dissolve. And it reminds me of exactly what Christ was talking about, like carry the cross, like pick up your cross and go, like get rid of that body. Yeah. and start connecting at it in a much deeper level. Imagine if everyone read this and really took it to heart, how much transformation there would be in the world.
It would be unreal. And we wouldn't have a problem with politicians anymore.
Right.
We'd be like, oh my gosh.
We wouldn't even vote for them.
We would unite again. Right. Exactly. Talk about too big to rig. It would be impossible.
Yeah.
It would be absolutely impossible. I've seen what we can do on a local level here. And so, yeah, and he really does lay out how to begin. At the end, you know, he really does kind of circle back around and really kind of just briefly talk about things you can do, like things to think about, ways to start the process of getting out of the system. And if we all did it, well, there wouldn't be racism. It wouldn't even exist.
Yeah.
I mean, we just would not like each other for whatever weird reason we didn't like each other. That's just pretty much human nature. Racism has been created. And like you said, real racism, that's in South Africa. That's the stuff going on in South Africa where they're, you know, mutilating people, genocide.
Right. It's absolutely crazy. And did you ever go through a moment like that though, where you can't even pretend you're driving the car, that it's gotten to the point where you really are strapped onto the front of something else driving you? Have you ever been in that situation? Because I know for me, it was after my divorce.
Right. I know I have. I would say probably maybe even a lot of my 20s. Like, I wouldn't say it was like one specific situation, but
just
I think that,
like just little awakenings.
Well, and I went from kind of having, and it wasn't a perfect childhood, that doesn't exist, but I like believed in magic. Like, and when I say that, I mean, I saw the world like in the best possible way. And I just thought everything was like magical and, like falling in love for the first time. And it was everything I wanted it to be. And it was like pretend. I didn't, I had nobody prepared me for the real world. So, and I was very sheltered. Like my parents were very protective. I wasn't allowed to date until I was, 17. And I still had very strong curfews, and there was no drinking. There was no R-rated movies. Um, and so I saw the world. Like my parents had money. I had beautiful things. Like I had a loving, it just, I saw the world like in one way. And then so
Right.
once I was on my own,
Right.
away from home, and I got my heart stomped on. I got friends stabbing me in the back. Girls were jealous of me because I had nice things. It was like this horrible like time, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to feel. And the Catholic faith, even though I was still going to church, it wasn't a real relationship with God. So I wasn't able to rely on that. And I think I just was like going through the motions of life without any real, like, clear direction. And I still believed in the movies. I still believed in like happily ever after, and, the girl gets the guy and it all works out. And so I was just like so disappointed and and just kind of,
That's so funny.
yeah, I didn't have a plan. I was so locked in to whatever I had seen. And I don't think, my mom was good at common sense. She had great comments, but I was just not prepared for anything.
Right.
And so then I just started making a lot of mistakes.
It's a good way to learn. Probably the fastest way to learn.
Life's the best teacher.
Bad relationships. And he uses that as an example, and I love how he said something about it was selfish to marry the sugar without the vinegar.
Isn't that the reason that there is just so much
Every
divorce?
relationship. And he's like, I thought I married one altar, but there was two. And I would say every single one of us has more than two. I remember when I was kind of coming through my awakening and going through and figuring out who I was really, because I had been so trained by the Marine dad that I had to be a people pleaser and to be perfect and to do all this stuff that I didn't really ever get to be me. I always had to be what I was supposed to be to everyone else. And I absolutely sat down and wrote down all of the different characters within me, and I named them all.
Wow.
And I do that with a lot of my clients that I work with, is figuring out, all the different monsters and entities and children and things, voices in our head, and give them names, and you can start integrating them, and it's a really good thing. But I do believe every person that gets married needs to know that they're not just marrying the sugar. And if you don't know the vinegar, then you need to figure it out, because you don't want to find that out after you've said I do.
And you don't want to be me, rose-colored glasses.
What's wrong with rose-colored glasses?
Those beautiful glasses you have on. I'm putting my phone bank into my charging bank into my computer. Well, yeah, I mean, I've never been married. And I would say that was the moment that I really woke up, is when I got pregnant and decided not to get married.
Right.
And like Jack's father and I, like, we just get along so well. It's such a happy family, and we are the very rare exception. Yes. He has 2 other children from another marriage, and we all love each other. I mean, that's awesome. Just is, we were just all together for his graduation. So we did a good job of being friendly and family, even though we did get married. But having a kiddo on your own, it's either going to make you or break you. And that's when I got my stuff together. That's when I was like responsible for someone else. I knew that I had to make a lot of change and do a lot of self-reflection. And that took me years, and it's never over, but picking apart childhood wounds and all that stuff, and then really starting to be honest with yourself. I think when you start being honest with you, you're on the right path. And it takes a
That's
really
what he would call the light magic that most people don't want to have a part of because it's yucky or boring or, whatever it is that people think it is.
It's the best part of life.
I also want to tell people that there's no way we can ruin this book. Like experiencing it for yourself you'll get something different out of it than we will. And things will highlight different. And there is a plethora in every single chapter of points like this that we're talking about. We couldn't even cover it. We couldn't.
There's no way.
Another one that I loved was we reverberate when we are hollow. And I was just like, that is exactly right. So many people are so full of not what they are that there's nothing there.
And it's so sad because if you're hollow, then you're going to fall for anything. And I would say with the compassion, that's why we're in such a mess. Yeah. And it's because if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And the amount of people that I talk to that, I used to want to help people back in my, I think I can help people phase. I really did want to help them understand some of the stuff that's really going on. I don't even say anything anymore.
Same.
Because it's impossible when they look at you with this stare, like literally. Someone said to me as I was trying to help them understand, I think you need to take some time for your mental health. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to try anymore. And you can think I'm crazy. But
that is good timing for my next one that I wanted to talk about. If you're done. Sorry, I thought you were done.
No, I mean, it's really just the hollow people. That's the problem. And it's the devices that are hollowing us out. I mean, and he gets into that too. But if you have a phone in your hand 90% of the time, if you're watching Netflix, if you're locked into your computer, you're hollow. You may not be fully hollow, but I'm sorry, you're locked into a completely false reality of likes and shares and AI. And now AI is a whole new.
No, it is. But it's a whole other thing. But that person's response to you about the mental health thing reminds me of also when he was talking about the marriage and realizing about the altars. He said that she looked at him and she was offended by his self-protection. And I think that is a huge piece to so much of the sickness, whether it be, in marriages or in work or in politics or whatever relationships you're having, that when you see somebody offended by your self-protection, then there's a problem. And this goes back to the church again, because I keep seeing all these people talking about heresy hunters. I was like, no, they're heresy sentry. They're the guard on the wall protecting a child that had her butt smacked by a full out pastor, which if that was done in a office situation, there would have been HR and possibly police involved.
Oh my gosh.
And they're offended that you're self-protecting. How dare you divide the church? Look at what you're doing to the church. Like, is it worth it to go after this guy like that? And yeah, it is. That's my job, to protect. But it's so funny the way he said that. She was offended by my self-protection.
Well, and I mean, I've never been, long-term married, but narcissists, and we have a world full of created narcissists. And I'm not sure, they're genuine, full-blown narcissists, though I definitely know those people. But when you are all about self and you only see things from your point of view, then you are offended when someone self-protects. And I think we've got an interesting bunch of kids coming up. And there's such a deep divide because we've got a bunch of these narcissists on one hand that are the liberal, progressive, and I hate, these are all such labels, and I'm sorry for that, but they do fit the snowflakey kind of virtue signaled to death kind of people that do need a day off because of a presidential election. Like, that on what planet makes sense to anyone? I'll never understand that. Are we not? Oh my God. It's been created. But on the other hand, I'm seeing, like, my son, your daughter, a lot of these kids that are standing up, that are like, I mean, they're bringing God back in such a beautiful way. And it's so inspiring to see these kids standing up for our country and for freedom and for the Constitution and bringing God back into everything. So it's an interesting time. I would say our kids are probably much more aware, but I know my son is, than I was. And it is a result of being raised by me as, I was going through all my phases of waking up and trying to find the truth and questioning religion. A lot is where a lot of my stuff started.
Yeah.
And then it was so easy to believe what was going on in our world because nothing ever made sense until I started connecting dots about the politics, and that really, I look at them all as actors and actresses.
Yeah. Wag the dog.
It is. I mean, I think part of the qualification, because I've watched it play out locally, you have to be a bit of a snake charmer and, snake oil salesman. You have to like the sound of your own voice. And so those people gravitate, just like in Hollywood, the very broken, hollow people gravitate toward those positions because they get the accolades and all the love and the attention that they so desperately.
And now it's so ugly. It's so ugly now. Like, I have a really hard time watching a movie. Can't watch one with Tom Hanks in it. Like, there's certain, like Richard Gere. There's certain ones I'm like, I can't do it. Sean Penn. Oh no.
Yeah. Nope.
But it's so fascinating because all of this, it really did show in a like hyper level, because it used to be so subtle that it was harder to see. But ever since 2020, it's so clear for those of us who can see it. And to me, the way he also talks back at the people, like, how you were saying that you realize religion, wasn't what you thought it was. And one of the things he said that they tell them to say, it's all right. Just tell them it's all right now. Tell them the rapture is coming. How insane is it? And how real of a point is that is exactly where all of the Judeo-Christian people are right now. They're all literally looking to build temples and look for heifers and excited about it. Like, what planet are they on that they're excited for the rapture and for the end times? And then now we've got all these people talking about the little season, and that to me is far more like believable. Talk about connecting the dots. I don't know if you've gotten into any of that, but I've got this gentleman named he has a YouTube channel. It's called JT Loves JC. And he and his whole crew, there's a bunch of them, and the guy that did the Nephilim Clowns, Paul Stops, they're all friends. And I was wanting Paul to do the little season, and he's taking a vacation from it. And I was like, well, who would be good to ask? And he said to ask JT, and he graciously said yes, and I'm excited to have him. But
I love that. Hold on.
I do think that little season removes that. Here's this comfortable excuse for you to feel comfortable. Again, that light work here. Let me, or the black magic. Let me lie to you so you feel better.
Yes. Okay. I got to go get my phone bank isn't working. I need to go get my charger.
Oh, okay. No worries. And then I'm going to read a couple more while you're gone. Yes. And so, all right, well, where's another one? She was okay. So the other thing that I also, in the whole marriage section one, that I loved was the way he reconciles. and sums up the whole narcissistic grooming attitude. How confusing it is in the brain of the person that's having it come at them. Here's someone kind doing something evil. And I thought that was so beautifully said, because that's why girls in prostitution that get saved out of sex trafficking, and we finally get them into the safe house, and the first thing they want to do is get on the phone with their boyfriend. They really believe it's their boyfriend. And that's because he did a couple of love bomby things in the beginning. And she thinks that they're still together because she had that oxytocin drop and she has that bonding hormone, and she believes he's good. And this is why people cannot grasp exactly what he's saying, that reconciling, like someone kind doing something evil. Like every single time somebody gets themselves in a situation where someone's abusing them as a pastor or abusing them as their boss or any type of leadership role, whether it's clergy abuse or, somebody taking advantage somewhere else, it always is because they were doing so many kind things, and then they stick in that abuse, and the person cannot reconcile it in their brain. They cannot wrap around that somebody nice, somebody kind would do something evil. And they keep giving them the benefit of the doubt. Like I just recently, this Dr. Michael Brown pastor, and he's got this young girl that was working for him who he was her spiritual father. And he is touching her, kissing her. She's sitting on his lap. She's working for him. All these things. And so people are giving her a hard time because it took her so many years to come back and say it was abuse, and that she still would send him letters, I graduated from college, or I did this or whatever. And I'm not saying those are the ones. Please don't take me like people that take you so literally. I'm saying that she was doing nice things back. She was sending him nice messages. I don't know exactly what they were, but for years. And so people use that to discount and as proof, which only shows their ignorance of how it actually works. It is always the kind person that is doing the abuse. It's always the person that love bombed you. It's always the person that has some sort of literal bond with you. And it is very confusing. And it is so confusing that oftentimes, like Virginia Giuffre has said publicly that she didn't go after Epstein until she had a baby in her arms, her first child in her arms. And that's when all of it started clicking. And I think that anyone that is working with anyone out of SA or SRA or any kind of abuse, clergy abuse, subtle abuse, you have to remember that that person has incredible bonds with that person. It's called trauma bonding for a reason. And to really look at what that is. But I love the way he just says it so simply, it's hard to, and he didn't use the word reconcile, but someone kind doing something evil. I really think that is probably the worst epidemic we have in the nation.
I would agree. And I think that is why people get involved in Freemasonry. They're so stinking clueless, but they're like, it's all philanthropic. It's such a good organization. All we do is good. Okay, but you take these vows. Like you can grab multiple books about the vows they take at each level. And literally the stuff that's coming out of your mouth is beyond evil.
Yeah.
But because you do good over here.
Right.
Great organization. I mean, it's the same thing with politics.
Yep.
It's these people that tell you all these wonderful things and do wonderful here, but are doing horrible over here. It's the same thing. That's how we've been conditioned to operate in society. Yes. So there is no, and just, with the occult, the biggest trick is telling us that Satan doesn't exist. It's just good and bad. There's just good and bad people. We've both got both light and dark. And so you're born on this planet, and trauma is the first thing, whether slapping your ass or they're circumcising the baby boys. Trauma is the
Right.
first thing they expose us to on
Or the
purpose.
shots or whatever. Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Now,
Great
they're
point.
giving babies Hep B shots at
Yep.
birth when they're in the hospital
Crazy.
for sexually transmitted
Diseases. It's nuts.
You've got to be kidding me. And these parents are still handing those babies over. I mean, I'm working on
They like the black magic. They like being in the box, safe, with people telling them what to do.
They're so afraid of what could happen.
If they only knew how incredibly and free it feels to start like seeing the truth, as much as it hurts. And it's funny because people are like, oh, I don't know how you can talk about that so much. And I'm like, oh, well, they're still in it. They're still traumatized if they hear the truth. And for me, it's like, it doesn't even, I'm so detached from it because I see it for what it is, that it doesn't hurt me. I also understand that God uses everything for good. And so that is the medicine that they need to take.
Well, and that's the ultimate freedom. That's what people don't get. And you can't gift that to them, but being detached from religion, from politics, from the trickery. And I'm not 100% there. I'm not going to claim that I am. I'm always going to be working on
I still catch myself all the time.
Our whole lives, we've been ingrained into this blueprint society that we live in. But God, separating from a church, like I couldn't find a church. I tried. I'd like it. I'd love the work that they do. I'd like, the first thing I'd ask, are you 501(c)(3)? I found churches that weren't. I think they're doing great things. But again, I think I'm just done with one person standing up there having the answers, preaching to it bothers me to the core.
I just don't think it's right. And then that's another thing. People are talking like, oh, well, you don't understand because you're not, from whatever religion, and you don't get that there's spiritual fathers and mothers. And I'm like, well, there shouldn't be. When I worked with Mac, the guy out of jail, people would say, oh, it's so nice that he has you. He never had a mom. Like, it's like you're his mom. And I'm like, well, I'm like his momager. Like I'm his manager and his mentor, but he's like my little brother too, because he was so much fun and he was so much fun to talk to. And so I felt like kind of an aunt to him. But my main goal was to reunite him with his real mother.
Love that.
And that should be the churches should know that more than anyone. Even says in the Bible not to call anyone your father. They should be turning the child properly over to God.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Not them as the father or the mother.
I call myself a spiritual mother. I have kids that I pray over. In that sense. That I'm very close as a teacher, it's my nature to love, and especially
but that's a different, do you see the difference though?
Oh, totally. Yeah. But I definitely we've got sickness, and this, I mean, back to the whole idea of the cult, the Hollywood, and it's in politics too. How he describes pedophilia. For anyone that doesn't understand pedophilia, this book is worth it to read or listen to it just to understand. He made it, and I've worked my whole life against pedophilia. That's why I left the Catholic faith. I have very, very, very passionate views about these pedophiles and that they cannot be rehabilitated. It's impossible. A death penalty type thing is probably the only answer to saving our children, because there's a lot of them out there now. But the way he describes it as you have to be void of your human heart in order to commit such an atrocity. Yes. So he doesn't lay it out like it's demon possession, but it's not you driving the bus anymore. And I've long said you have to be demon possessed to do these types of things. It's not you. You've compromised yourself, or you're just so damaged and abused yourself, you know no other way. But pedophiles, it's sickness. There's nothing normal about it. And for so long, I've tried to tell people, like, there's no putting them in jail and getting them back out. Like, they will.
It's that point of going past it to the retrograde. Retrograde. Why is it not coming to me? Reprobate.
Yes, you got it.
Thank you. Let me say it 10 more times the wrong way. But yeah, that I don't want to talk about that too much because we're gonna get flagged on YouTube. This is a fiction book.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'll make sure it's just not monetized or whatever. Okay. The next thing, activating trauma armies. Honest to God, that is it right there. We leave our bodies and we end up being in the trauma army. And he even put it in the sense of mutilating your body. And when you think about abortion or trans or whatever it is, it's this like self-mutilation, which I thought was fascinating. But I also really like the idea of a trauma army, because really that is what we're all in, like little trauma armies, like the women are in trauma armies, the men are in trauma armies against, gender. And then the blacks, whites, Hispanics, Muslims, everybody's in the trauma army for their race. And then we've got trauma armies for people that have, on the red team or the blue team as far as politics. And so I just thought that was so funny, because when you actually see the people fighting on Twitter and stuff about politics, it really is whatever their traumas are, they're fighting for the opposite to happen. It's a really, really powerful term.
It is a powerful term. It is what we're involved in, I think, right now more than ever. And it's probably because I am on X a lot, but I used to get in there and make comments and think like, you could, it's hilarious. I mean, now I just go in and read comments just because I'm like, where are people out today? And I am blown away at the way people think, at how they will come at people with the most heinous thing. Like, we are so damaged. We are so damaged.
Yep.
It's hard to wrap your mind around it. The damage that's out there in this world, and what people will freely say to one another, what people will talk about their trauma. Like, I've been in a chat, like a stream where we're all talking about something, and someone lays open like some of the most personal, private details of their life. And I just sat there and go, we are so, this thing we were born into has broken us. I don't even think most people understand, because then we have our altars. We wear our masks to survive. To be okay, you have to compartmentalize and push through to just survive this place. But yeah, sometimes I'm like, are we in the rapture? I mean, is this like,
and that's why I love the little season. It makes so much more sense, because it really does seem like Satan's world right now. And he would have been loosed for the little season.
Okay. Yeah.
So it just makes a lot of sense. Like, I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to go, oh, I feel so settled in my faith. I'm settled in my faith for truth and life and way. Right. But I am not settled in my religion or my, I don't even know what you would say. Like, people have divided it into so many different sects. Mm-hmm. And so any Bible scholar could fight with any other Bible scholar over hundreds of things that we probably don't even know exist, as far as the complexity of it. And so we're already at an hour. I can't believe how fast that went.
That went well. It's the subject.
I know it. Like I said, it would take. We're not ruining the book. It would take forever to get through it, and we can't. You can't describe the way he uses words is just phenomenal. I started reading one of his other books and I was cracking up because he described this man eating, and he said, I saw those 4 noodles like flipping into his mouth. It looked like 5 guys waving goodbye. And I was just like, how does he even think of this stuff? Like, it's so good. And that was just a tiny little detail of the book, you know?
As an English teacher.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Right. The way he writes, the language, he is beyond gifted.
Yeah.
I mean, he can paint a picture in a sentence, and like he can connect the dots and make it, you can see it, you can smell it, the imagery, I really can't recommend the book enough. I mean, honestly, and in no way, shape, or form did we ruin anything about this book.
No, there's so much, and it's so wonderful. And I'm trying to think if there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about, though, was the last quote that I really thought was so brilliant. And it also shows how we make ourselves sick and we heal ourselves, because he was talking about the placebo effect.
Right.
And one of the comments he made was that the placebo effect is 35% more effective than it already is when a doctor wears a lab coat when he gives you the information and the placebo.
Scary. Carmen.
No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful because that actually means that when we focus and we're focusing on truth,
right?
We don't need a pill and a doctor and a credentials. Like, think of all the things you have to have. I have to have a place that I have to drive to. It's like a ceremony. I have to have a person in a white coat. They have to have all these papers on the wall.
Yeah.
They have to have a little paper that they write it on. I have to take it to another building, and I have to go pick up the actual thing. And then I've got to ritually take this thing with water every day. And think about how focused you are to do all of those things.
Right. And so when I say scary, I mean, it's great for you and I that we've been disconnected from that system for a long time, but scary when you really look at what, like,
right, because they're being programmed by somebody else.
Like a lab coat. You know what? Here's the thing. You could hang up, and this has been done. People have faked being doctors. They have worn the lab coat and the stethoscope with the credentials on the wall and treated people. There was a guy doing liposuction in a strip mall.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, and it's this crazy story of how I know about it, but my parents were involved or interviewed. None of us went to him, but he's the same guy that swindled my sister. So ABC was doing this big documentary on this guy and following him around, trying to expose him. But yeah, so I mean, the thing is, and I love I think my favorite quote, awareness is my staff of life.
Yeah.
And when I think of a staff of life, I always think biblically, I think of, God being our staff. He is our rod. He is our staff, Psalm 23, which he also talks about and gets into like demons and schizophrenia. And again, so many great things in this book, but awareness is my staff of life. And I think if there's one thing that I could just say, like I took from the book, it's that, because if you're aware, if you're searching for that truth, you're not going to fail. It might be lonely. It might get confusing. And that light magic is a scary place when you first start.
Yeah.
But I don't think life is worth living without being where we are.
Yeah.
Without getting there, without questioning everything. Because once you do, then everything that you really do give your attention to has meaning. Like
you start knowing who you are, and you start you're willing to be vulnerable. You don't even care. Like you just are what you are. You're not worried about somebody's reaction to it. Before I go, I want to say again, the book is called Blueprints of Mind Control by James True. You can find him on Twitter, and it's JA True. And he has a website that I think is either jatrue or jtrue.com. And I'll put it all in the description box. But also want to tell you, like, I wrote down a list of all of the things that are in this book. And I didn't even get all of them, but media, archetypes, language shapes, manipulating social structures, mental barriers, which that was another one I love when he talked about the invisible fencing, the invisible razor wire, how people don't realize that they don't go past certain points because they've been punished for going past those certain points. And there's like this invisible razor wire just there. Chemical means to alter control, how dreams and sleep are influenced, sound frequencies, art to shape the collectiveness, specific language patterns, group psychology and how it's exploited, deceptive events to manipulate public opinion. We didn't even get to all that. There was so much. And I mean, I'm not even listing all of them. It was just incredible. I'm going to read all of his other books too. I'd already started the one. I don't even remember which one it was. But maybe if I can talk Natalie into doing, and also if there's anyone out there that is real chatty and loves to, read books and you would be interested in joining our book club, awesome. I might like you and I might want you to come. I love it. But thank you so much, Natalie. And
my pleasure.
And I'm really
you for introducing us to him, because like I said, if he rubs you a little the wrong way, I think that's probably good. I think that's what he's after. If we're really going to be honest, that's his point, is to get
that's you the whole dojo concept.
Be like, yay, because she thought about it, right? He doesn't want people to be little minions that agree with him on everything. He wants us to think. I think that's the whole point of him doing this, and I think that anyone that is seeking truth and self-awareness, this is your book. It's a great place to start, and I want to read some more of his books too. He's brilliant.
Well, will I get you back for another book club?
Yes, ma'am.
Yay. All right. Well, we'll be back eventually. It's hard to get the two of us in the same spot after we both read a book and ready for it. And
Great. Well, now that I'm done with my whirlwind travels.
Yeah. And too, it is definitely an adult read. Like, this isn't something for children. I mean, it's an adult read, and there's some language in it, and there's some massively like high-end concepts that some people might be offended by, and others, I don't know. But I just like to warn people just so they know.
He gets into a lot of the cult stuff. So, and there's some gore.
There is some gore.
Saturn.
Definitely.
That was a little gory.
Yeah, definitely. It's so funny. Do you ever wonder, like, I always think writers are so brave because of that, because what they're basically doing is telling you how far they've gone with some of their thoughts, and maybe not even how far, right?
Right.
But it's such a vulnerable position to be in, to like kind of let everybody know. And so Lee just asked, where do we get it, Carmen? I think you can get the books on his website, and he makes more money that way. But if you can't get him on his website, because I might be mixing him up with another friend, then just go to Amazon. And I've been pulling them off of Audible as well. So
I loved listening to it. I'm a big reader, but I loved listening to it because it is chock full, and I can sit there and really take it in and take notes.
Yes.
While I'm listening, because I have pages of notes.
So many notes. It was insane.
It's and there's more. It's really good. I think, everybody stands to really learn some stuff.
How cool would it be to create a world where like nobody was in the mind control business? We would never be bored. I think that people think it will be boring, but I think we would be blown away at the creativity that begins to come out because people aren't afraid to step out in a way that might affect their job or, whatever.
The all-seeing eye is what he calls it. And it's true. I mean, these have robbed us of our creativity. And the less we engage, the more awake we are, the more creative, and the more connected. We're going to be happier people.
Right.
Because whenever I find somebody like we found each other, I'm so happy because I can have a conversation. I don't have to wear a mask of.
Right. That's how I felt yesterday talking to the coroner, Graham Hetrick, which thank you again, Kathy, for connecting me with that man. I just loved him and his wife, and we're going to try to get together the next time they're in Texas, and just the coolest people, And I just think it's like, we all have to stick together.
We really do.
Yeah. Which makes me, I want to go to a dojo. His other channel, so his main channel is James True, but his other channel is called Dojo Earth. And I'm not going to lie. I had to watch a lot of it to get like how it works.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't get it at first. I was just watching it going, okay, why does he have a moderator? Like, I was confused by the whole setup.
Right.
And so
he has a whole community.
And this is me speaking, not for him, but the way I see it now is it literally is kind of like where you would go to do martial arts, where you would go from a one belt, like a white belt to, whatever the next one is, yellow or whatever it is. And what you're doing is you're putting yourself out there. And then the moderator is making sure that, all of the dashboards handled and that they're trying to, help James, but that James interjects every once in a while. And of course, it's incredible when he does. Like, I've never, like, even the stuff that I'm like, oh, I can't believe he said that. It still is very thought-provoking and mind-expanding. And I love that. I think it's really, really incredible. But the people that are on there, I don't know how they have the time to do it. Every time I want to get on there, like I either have to run to the bank or I have this I've got to do or that. And so I would really like to go to one, though. I think it'd be fun. We should try to make a point of going together sometime. I think it'd be really fun.
I would love that.
Anyway, James True, if by any chance you catch any part of this or the end of this, thank you very much for expanding our minds, because it's so refreshing to have something to look forward to that's positive, rather than, all of the trauma armies we have to endure all day.
Exactly. It's a great read. Everybody should grab a copy or listen to it.
Yeah,
for sure. And thank you, Carmen, for introducing.
And I'm going to go ahead and close off here. You